Florida. My name is Lana. How are you tonight? I am in my kitchen. It's all about healing with food, right? Food is let thy food be thy medicine, be thy medicine be thy food, right? Hippocrates said it best. And so most of the foods that I eat are plant-based, whole foods. And I find that since I transitioned my lifestyle in general, that I've healed a whole lot of ailments, a lot of chronic disease, a lot of chronic pain, IBS, cervical spine issues, lower back, thoracic, Raynaud's, issues with my circulation, issues with my kidneys. I used to get UTIs when I was younger, quite a bit. I was in the Air Force for over 10 years. So, they're all about pushing, we used to call it vitamin M, vitamin Motrin, or, ibuprofen. Because everything they threw at us was either 1,600 milligrams, 800 milligrams. You know how bad that stuff is on your liver? And when I was in, I had to go on this stuff called, I think it was called INH, because I had a little bit of a bubbling up. Not a lot. It was kind of like one of those on the borderline of a positive for tuberculosis. And when they did x-rays on my lungs, they were completely clear. And so I was kind of like, okay, I suffered and I was jaundiced and bloated and, all sorts of physical ailments and issues that nobody wants to live with. It's the discomfort, right? And so between the food that I was eating, which learned later that a lot of my issues were because I was allergic to wheat and gluten, severely allergic now. And the more I've cleaned my diet, the more sensitive I am to toxic and processed foods. My body is much more optimal on whole foods, plant-based, Foods that come from Mother Earth, the natural gifts, the fruits of what we were given, to begin with. We don't need all this packaged stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we do, I still eat. One of my favorite things to eat, what I call my quick and dirty, are dates and almonds, because they're nature's candy, right? Dates and almond butter, right? You dip those dates in there and you can't just have one. They're better than Pringles, people, right? And so I love that with some celery, crunch, hydrating. Celery is extremely healing. And I'll also, fresh blueberries kind of keeps the almond butter from sticking to the roof of your mouth. This is my little trick anyway. And so on another note, I embrace food because I'm a foodie. I'm a true foodie. I can eat. Don't let my size fool you. I was a marathon runner. I was high impact. I did aerobics, kickboxing, step aerobics. I taught it all, Pilates, boot camp. I did my marathons. Long distance running was my marathon, was my meditation, was my going within. It was like, because I have a very overactive mind to begin with, I have to keep myself busy. It's just the balancing of the mind. For me, I physically had to keep moving my body. So when I found that I was unable to run any longer, I had to take it down. I had to tone down my life, which, let me tell you, that was humbling because I was not happy that I couldn't run anymore. I don't know if anybody else out there has this problem, or do I have any avid runners out there? Anybody who really enjoys getting your sweat on? Because I used to be drenched. And people would look at me and I'd be red. And, are you okay? And I'm like, oh yeah, I felt alive, invigorated, right? Your body is just, because you sweat out toxins. There's only a few ways you can get rid of the toxins in your body, and it's through your pores, sweating. It's through elimination, going to the bathroom, right? It's through your tear ducts. It's also through your saliva, but also because lymphatically, you've got to shed it, right? You got to move the lymph system. You have to shake it up. That's why people talk about rebounding. Anything that moves the body can also help to process and eliminate through the lymphatic system, which is the whole purpose of the lymph nodes. It's to carry those toxins out of the body. And so I remember when my dad's wife was going through cancer, and the first treatment she had, they took a lump out of her breast. They took out the lymph nodes. Now, just because there's cancer cells in the lymph nodes doesn't make it a bad thing, and I'm not even a doctor, but just think about that. You have now taken out the body's natural ability to remove the foreign bodies, the foreign invaders, because your body naturally creates an increase. It increases the white cell blood count in order to remove to isolate, right? That's what inflammation is. It's really that the body is going into, we're taking care of the scenario. It inflames around with these white blood cells so that it can isolate what is foreign and needs to be extracted or healed, right? So that it's like a protective barrier. So inflammation is really your body's mechanism. It's healing to try to go in there and do its job. It's like, it's like when the doctors go to do surgery. It has this protective room so that, nothing disturbs it. It keeps it protected from any bacteria or any additional introduction, right? And so I'm not a doctor, but I've learned a lot through my own personal experience and my own research. And I know being thin, people look at me and think, oh, she doesn't have any issues. Well, no, trust me. I have a hip that they want to do surgery on because the ball socket in itself is not round. And they said that the only way they can do it is if they cut me open and actually go and grind. Does that sound appealing to anybody else? I so don't want to go into the knife. They're gonna do all sorts of... And so therefore I have pushed and staved that off. But as a result of all of my disabilities, whatever you want to call them, I don't really like labels, I have worked through food, yoga, meditation, breath work, and I feel so much better than I did in my 20s, in my 30s. I'm 43 and I feel like I thrive more. I wake up with a little bit more clarity than I ever did. I did suffer from a lot of brain fog and what people would call, what do they call that? Brain and wheat belly. I suffered with constipation all of my life. Not a fun thing if you're not going to the bathroom regularly, at least a few times a day, especially depending on what you're eating, something's not right. And of course, when I was younger, the doctors don't talk about that. So I was never told by a doctor, oh, by the way, you're supposed to be going to the bathroom several times a day and that it isn't normal to go once a week if you're lucky. I mean, that's what I dealt with growing up. So I had to re-educate myself and get away from the standard American diet. And as a result, I was embracing everything that came my way. I went to a restaurant today that I found when I first found out about my allergies, and I was slowly but surely guided on this path of whole foods, plant-based lifestyle that for me changed my life immensely. So, I shared that just as my personal experience. Everybody's going to have their own experience, and everybody's unique. So you got to find what works for you and allow yourself to be guided and tap into this body. This body has its own language and its own wisdom, and it's telling you everything you need to know. And one thing I've learned through all of my yoga and meditation is the mind is the first place that it actually gets that information. Like the body responds to the mind. So if there's dis-ease in the mind, the first place it's going to lodge itself is in the physical body, right? What happens when something bothers you, tenses you up? You hold your breath. So now you've cut off your life force. You've cut off your prana. The breath is the one thing we can't live without. We could go without anything. There's people they call breatharians. I didn't come here to be a breatharian, by the way. I like my food. And that's why I thought this group would appreciate this, me going live in here and checking things out, because I wanted to share my story and a recipe that I'm in the process of playing with. And so ultimately, the idea that our mind is so powerful that it overrules our own body, that our body would just stop operating because the mind is in its own stress. You've got to remember to breathe. Because if you're not breathing, and especially some of us who get stuck up in here, if you're not breathing fully, you're really cutting yourself off from life. You're really like, it's your life force. And so you're depleting yourself and you're aging yourself. And that's how different diseases continue to thrive in your body, is because you're feeding it the anxiety versus nourishing it with the breath, the life force, what you need, right? The one thing we all need. We should wake up in the morning and have long, deep breaths, right? And I teach yoga too. So it's all about like really deep into the belly, and just envisioning that it's filling up all of your cells and your organs, and it's oxygenating your blood. Because when we're not breathing fully, we're not living fully. And one thing I've learned is if you can master your breath, you can master your mind. And if you master your mind, you can master your life. Instead of thinking the mind can rule and take over and control you. The mind just has this illusion. The mind thinks it's got everything. Don't worry, I got your back. Do you remember? You know, it's like the mind has become a master when it's supposed to be our slave, right? So I hope you're all having an amazing evening. I'm going to make a banana cream pie tonight. And this is all plant-based, no processed foods. And this is one of my favorite things to make. I haven't made this in a while, so I have to kind of play around. I have my recipes kind of dispersed, and so I'm having to try to find everything. So here's the deal. I got to turn the fan on a little bit because it's a little bit warm in my kitchen. Let me check something I have in the oven because it's a little bit warm in here. Okay, yeah, it's definitely warm in the kitchen. And so, yeah, that should work. Okay, that's good. And I've got a whole lot of bananas. And these particular bananas are Manzano bananas. Has anybody ever tried working or playing with Manzano bananas? It's actually also known as an apple banana. It has that flavor. It's a mix between apple and banana. It's sweeter. It's so delicious. So I'm going to play with those, and I have some regular bananas in the crisper in my refrigerator that really need to be utilized. So I'm going to make this cream up, and it's going to be a mix. And so my banana cream pie is actually going to have a little chocolate in it too. So I'm going to play with that. Right now, what I have in my food processor is it's 3/4 of a cup to about a cup. I'm eyeballing everything because honestly, I kind of just eyeball everything anyway. And so I'm not 100% sure what the recipe is going to turn out to be. So if anybody wants to take notes and share them, please let me know. I might need them later if I need to remake this. I just basically need to know what I put in it. So I have also about, I don't even have about 1/4 cup, probably 1/8 of a cup of coconut shreds in here. And this is just going to be the crust that I'm going to press into this pan. The first thing, and I'm going to put a couple pinches of salt because, and I don't usually use salt a lot, but salt will actually balance the different flavors. It's one thing I have learned in some of my culinary courses and training and research that I've done over the years. I've only taken like one culinary course, and it was mostly toward the raw vegan stuff that I wanted to learn a little bit more about. And I think I learned plenty on my own. I had more questions when I was taking that course or not. Oh, thank you so much. This blouse, this is a funny story. So I actually bought this in Disney World here in Florida. What summer was that? It would have been it was December. It was like New Year's Eve. And I think it was in the Morocco section at Epcot because it was New Year's Eve of 2008 to 9. I had just done a Date with Destiny program, which was phenomenal. So the first ingredient is about a cup of raw, sprouted and dehydrated almonds. Thank you. I love this color too. It's one of my favorite colors. And then I've got about, let's say 1/8 to 1/4 cup of the coconut shreds. And then I'm going to put dates in there, but I want to break up the dry stuff first and then move into giving it the gooey stuff to mix in because it might not mix as well. And sometimes I'm going to throw in a couple little things to play with the flavors because I really love spices and all. So without further ado, I need the salt. So I have Himalayan sea salt, and I'm going to put 2 pinches. Yes! I have not been to Morocco yet, but that is on my bucket list. In fact, so 2 good pinches. So again, salt will bring out the sweet. It's almost like they call it. It's used for flavor balancing a lot of times. Quite often you don't need salt. There's like its own natural salt in all these different foods if you're getting plant-based. Just like celery, you don't need salt because it has its own natural sodium content. All right, so here we go. We're going to do this up real quick. I'm sorry for the noise. All right. I don't want it to end up being a flour, so that's one of my only things. All right, I think that's good enough because we still have to put in the dates. And so I'm also a little bit like, I try to keep things really clean as I go in my kitchen, so I usually tidy up as I go, just because it makes it easier and I don't have to go back and clean up after the fact, right? All right, so now I'm gonna take the dates. And of course, I don't know if anybody's ever had this problem before, but I always have them. I'm gonna have to clean off the pits because there's still some on it. Have you ever opened up a date and it was moldy in the center? That's what stopped me from just biting straight on into it, because I've done that before and had that really horrible flavor. Oh, talk about gross you out. On top of which, it's also ironic, but years ago I was up in Maryland and I had picked up a bunch of organic dates at a health food store, and I've had 3 times in my life, and I eat a lot of dates, where I opened up the date and there was a fly inside next to the date at the very center. Tell me that's not unusual. I don't know how often that happens and how it happens, but that's pretty wild. So this is number 3. I've got 3 dates so far. I think 4 will be sufficient. If it's not enough, I can add more. Medjool dates, and they're in season right now, right? And this will get gooey and messy, the way we like it. I lick my fingers a lot. I lick the spoon. I lick the knife. It's just who I am. It's how I roll. Ooh, maybe it needs more. Let's start from the top down. Ooh, it's not getting as gooey as I thought it would. So we'll go with more dates. So what did I say? 4, so 5. And number 6, because it looks like it's going to need more. Oh heck, I'll do number 7. Can never have enough dates. It's just going to be one sweet yumminess. Banana cream pie. I should have probably put that on the title. It's really, really... Okay, let's see if I can get this too. See why it's not making that. Oh, this is interesting. I've never had this happen before. Usually, I might have to put a little bit of coconut oil. Yes, that's what I need in here. Told you I hadn't made this in a while. So just a little bit of coconut oil, maybe a couple more dates. So I'm going to say about a tablespoon should be sufficient. It's amazing how quickly this actually will spread through. Oh, hello, date. Yeah. So I sometimes have an ant issue, and I just found a whole bunch of ants on what I grabbed. They like my kitchen because especially when it's, when I cut up a watermelon, that's always the best determinant because it gets sticky. And if you've ever cut up a watermelon, they actually spray all over the place. So so I'm on the 3rd tablespoon of coconut yogurt. I'm going to put 4, 5 tablespoons. See if that's enough. If it isn't, we'll put more. Let's do this. Thank you for asking. I am in Clearwater, Florida, which is outside of the Tampa area. And I'm loving this weather, first off. Where is everybody else in here from? It's awesome to get to know new people, right? Share. Alrighty, so I had a little bit of an ant coverage over there. I don't know what that was about. I should check in here real quick. I guess that's one way to attract ants. They will get stuck in the oil, that's for sure. So, okay, the ants are done. I have them all over my hair now. Alright, so, oh my gosh, I used to live in Holton, Maine. I'm originally from Boston, and my parents moved us up to Holton, Maine because the crime had gotten so bad at the late 70s, early 80s. And so in 1980 is when we moved up to Maine. We had already bought the house. We sold our place, and we had 2 homes in Boston, one in Dorchester. And yeah, talk about a huge culture shock. But I grew up a lot of my youth up there, so I know cold and I don't miss it. And there's a reason why I actually came down here. My grandmother moved down here in the early 80s as well. Like, I don't know, 83, 84, maybe 5. And so we started coming down to Florida, and I've lived a lot of places, obviously, when I was stationed in the Air Force. And I'm going to put one more date in there. And so I've had a lot of different experiences. I had a home in Maryland. I was stationed in Maryland twice during my enlistment. Omaha, Nebraska is another really cold place. Been to Texas. San Antonio, obviously, where I did my boot camp. Basic training, we called it. And then I was also stationed in Biloxi, Mississippi. And I was stationed in Korea. I was TDY to England. I was TDY to Belgium. Or I was stationed in Belgium. I was TDY to Germany, to Italy, to Sarajevo. Where else have I been? Naples, Italy. I lived in Italy and was working as a contractor after I got the Air Force. I was also TDY to both Naples and Vicenza, Italy during my time in the service. I've been to Macedonia. That was another TDY that I did. A lot of moving and shaking around the world. So, yeah, good stuff. Great exposure. Good experiences. Oh yeah, now we're getting there. It's not as powdery, which I was wondering why I was so all over the place. So I like to eat like the closest to nature as possible. If I have to process it, wow, I'm making one heck of a mess. Very unlike me, by the way. All right, so now we got this. Oh, this is ooey gooey goodness. I'm laughing at myself. I'm making a huge mess over here. That's going to mean real cleanup because I'm telling you, I kid you not with the ants. Once they know you got sticky and sugary stuff going on, they do not stop until they get it. They get every last bite. Yummy. Okay, so I'm going to put this back up there. So I'm going to need my blender for the coconut cream. So I use a blend tech. One of the things I use the most in my kitchen is a blender. I'm making banana cream pie, and it's whole food, plants-based. So what I've already put in here so far, I think I used about 10 dates, and I've got about a cup of almonds that are raw. They're sprouted and dehydrated. There's also about 1/8 to 1/4 cup of coconut flakes, a couple pinches of salt for the flavor balancing, about 5 tablespoons of coconut oil, right? I'm going to show you how good this looks. And this is just the crumble. This is just for the base, okay? This is beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? Yum. So, and it's nice because it's just moist enough and not too overly moist so that you can pick it up and it kind of crumbles really nice. You could even make like little bars with these. So I was saying earlier that one of I call it my quick and dirty snacks. I used to just take dates with almond butter and just dip them, and also with celery, or like my other little trick is take some fresh blueberries and pop those in the mouth. It's like, you know how the almond butter will sometimes get stuck to the top of your mouth? It'll help keep it from sticking, and it'll kind of moisten, gives it a nice flavor, right? And I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I had this thing when I was a kid. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches were my comfort food. I could eat those until I was blue in the face. And even when I was an adult, you know, when I was still eating gluten, when I didn't know I was still, you know, had so many issues, and that was the cause of all my stomach problems, that's what I would turn to. I would instantaneously, okay, well, I love my peanut butter and jelly. Probably because it was the easiest thing to prepare when my parents weren't around, right? And here's how picky of a child I was. I don't know if anybody else out there can appreciate this. Here's what I would do. My dad one time I said, can I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? So he went to make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I said, make sure the peanut butter goes on one slice and the jelly goes on another, and then you put the two together. I said, don't you put the peanut butter and then put the jelly on top of the peanut butter. I will know, and I do, because I'm that kind of person. It's like there's a little joke. My mom used to call me the princess and the pea, because I would know if there was a pea under my mattress, right? So the peanut butter and jelly story went such that my dad made it, and I knew he was doing the lazy, because again, you need two knives. You can't be mixing the two peanut butter and jelly knives together. You're supposed to take the peanut butter, put it on the jelly, put the peanut butter first on one slice, and then you got to clean off the knife and use the jelly next on the next slice, and then put them together. Then you marry them together. You don't mix them before they've met, right? I don't know what my childhood thought was in that. I'm not that bad anymore. In fact, I have this amazing smoothie that I make that's, if you've never had gumdrop grapes, oh my gosh, those are like the real grape. That's what we think of the flavor from all the processed foods growing up, or the grape jelly. You take that with some almond butter and some dates. OMG, yumminess. And it's all real healthy. I mean, you can't get any closer to nature than eating food from nature. Sometimes people want remedies. I mean, I was reading through some of the interesting posts, what people are looking for recommendations on healing stuff. And my thing has been that, if your body needs a rest, if it's needing to heal, the first thing that's helpful is to heal through fasting. Because fasting is extremely beneficial. It gives the body a rest from trying to break down food and actually, do two things at once. Because when the body is at disease, you need to put it at rest and not give it a whole lot of tasks to work on at the same time as trying to heal itself, right? Granted, the body's able to multitask. It's not as efficient if we are multitasking like that. So, it's going to be fun. So my pretty rose-colored Pyrex dish, I'm going to put this in here, and then I'm going to press it down and just make this base. I'm probably going to have lots left over because I just realized I made a lot. This is so much fun. I really hope you all enjoy this. I didn't know if we could go live in this group, and I just like to share my recipes. And I like to dance in my kitchen too. I don't know, does anybody else like to dance in the kitchen? Let me know in the comments how many of you like to dance in your kitchen. I like to change it up anyway, And so recipes, again, like I said, I mean, I can give you like what I'm doing in this moment, but it'll change the next time I make it anyway. And that's what makes it the most fun. For me, I like to, although don't get me wrong, when you find the right recipe, you're like, make sure you wrote that down. My sister and I have a joke. I'm like, oh my God, Lori, I just made the most amazing whatever the recipe is, right? And here's our little joke. We're like, did you write it down? And we're like, damn it. Darn it, I forgot to write it down again. We're getting better. At least we remind ourselves, each other, when we do talk. And my family, I mean, my dad had a restaurant, so we're kind of like, it's in our blood, you know, really good food. We appreciate really good food. We know really good food. For me, the way that I prepare foods is that I feel it in my palate. Like, literally, for me, it's an alchemy. You know, the kitchen is like this is my sacred space, and I create all of this amazing gold, right? This delightful food that's made from my heart, because I really engage all of my senses, right? And that's what makes it so much more sensual, because food is sensual, and it should be, right? So you want to engage all of your 5 senses and then some, right? Your spidey sense too. Intuitively, once you're connected to everything, you're going to get it all down, right? So when you engage all 5 senses, you're really, really getting the essence of the food. You're feeling it, and then your body enjoys it that much more, right? And of course, for those of you out there who believe in prayers and blessing your food, that in itself infuses a totally different vibration to the food that you ingest. And it's so much more healing, right? So naturally, we can heal just through the power of the mind, the breath, being fully present in the moment, especially when you're eating your food. I want to feel all those flavors. I want to feel the transition, the change, the transformation, that alchemy, right? This is why I enjoy food so much, especially for me. Like, I like culturing food, right? I love ferments. I make my own kombucha. The other day I was making up my coconut yogurts. I made a vanilla coconut yogurt. I also made up a chocolate chicory yogurt, right? Chicory is a great prebiotic, which means it's very good to, again, for the enzymes in your stomach to help break down. It's also another one of those healing superfoods. Doesn't get enough attention kind of thing, right? I'm going to try to tuck this up around the edges too. This is so pretty. I wish y'all could like have smell-o-vision and taste-o-vision out there just to really appreciate this. Yummy, 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 I got lemons in my tummy. And I make up songs as I go too sometimes. I sing to myself. I keep myself well entertained in my kitchen. Anybody else? Dancing, cooking with your kid on your hip. I love that. That is like the best, right? You get to share those experiences. And children appreciate it, don't they? They do remember. I remember because my mom, who wasn't the best cook, which is funny because my sisters and I, once again, humor in my family is very positive. You know, that's how we got through a lot of stuff that happened in my childhood. My sister and I are like, remember, Mom couldn't cook. It was Dad. And we're like, I thought you were supposed to eat meatloaf with lots and lots of ketchup because it's so dry. Whoops. Now, mind you, when I was still eating meat, I made, you know, I created my own little special secrets in how to make the meat moister, right? Or how to make the perfect meatballs. Just a little crushed ice is all you need in the mix. Along with a bunch of my own little special recipes that I had made back then. But you know, and the thing is, it's ironic, is I didn't give up meat just because I didn't like it. In fact, I was the one person who would say, I'm never giving up my filet mignon, I'm never giving up my real butter. The reason I gave it up was because I had to start looking at what my food was eating, and being allergic to gluten and trying to avoid all that soy and all those GMOs and processed foods. I started looking at the trail, you know, what are they eating? If a cow is eating wheat, I'm going to get wheat. It's just like, to me, in the way I could equate it, was like secondhand smoking. And so I had to give up meat just by default. And I did have, the last time I had meat, I had steak tartare, and it was about, what are we in, 2017, now is about 8 years ago. Wow, has it been that long? 2009? it was about this time, 2009, or maybe it was 7 years ago. I might have my dates a little bit off. You know, again, stories that we tell are always as fresh in our mind as the last time we told that story. So I had steak tartare and a whole lot of wine because I was living in Italy off and on. I was in and out of Italy because I was dating someone over there and going back and forth, and all of my stuff is still in Europe. But interesting was that we had this amazing meal. I had steak tartare and all this pasta and red wine, and I don't remember which beautiful variety I was drinking, but I can tell you I never drank anything that was lower than a DOC quality. And I was definitely a connoisseur of wine. But I didn't give up wine overnight either. It just fell off my plate, out of my glass. You know, that's how I joke about it. It's like meat fell off my plate. You know, all the things I said I would never give up are the things that I just didn't crave it anymore. I hadn't eaten it in a while. I had a girlfriend say to me once, "Why don't you just go vegan?" I just kind of didn't really identify with labels to begin with. And then I was like, wait a minute. Can't remember the last time I had meat at that point when she asked me. And I thought that was an interesting transition because it wasn't like I did it on purpose. It just kind of happened. But the next morning, I had aperitivos and a whole lot of like a cafe corretto, which had, I didn't do cafe corretto with the grappa. I was never really, unless it was a really high quality grappa, I didn't really care for grappa. It was probably the Sambuca or even Bailey's, not Bailey's, but you know, one of those types of liqueurs. And then I had some like finocchietto or something, some herbal, digestivo they call them, right? So digestivo to help the digestion, or finocchietto. So yeah, I lived in Italy for a long time, off and on for over 10 years. So again, I know very good food. I know Michelin-rated restaurants, all that stuff. And now I just love the simplicity of my own cooking in my own kitchen. So how pretty is this, right? That's just the base. And I went up the sides too. So that was fun. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the banana cream. This is the yumminess, right? I play normally with macadamia nuts. That's one of my favorite things to use. I love macs. Brazil nuts are amazing. I try to stay away from cashews, and mostly because I don't know if any of you use them. They're kind of expensive, and here's why. They have to put a full suit on, a chemical suit, because the cashew nut itself is within a toxic encasing. If you ever were to see this, and I have a friend who's done this, you don't bite into it. It will cause you to go into anaphylactic shock. So why did we ever start using cashews? How did we ever determine that this nut within inside of that was okay to eat? I don't know, but to me, if they have to use chem suits, you know, to protect themselves because it's caustic, then what's to say there's no residual on the nut? I feel like personally, this is my experience, that I get a reaction. Even if I can still consume them, I don't make a habit of it. I don't use them in my kitchen. I don't buy them, but if I go out to eat at special restaurants, I will actually make the exception. So it's just something to think about that I've always questioned for myself and wondered about other people. Has anybody else out there had a reaction to cashews? I don't do peanuts. Years ago, if anybody remembers, there was this whole peanut scare with the whole mold incident. First off, peanuts are legumes. They're underneath the earth, and they have a high mold count. But when they were making peanut butter, they're using canola oil, rapeseed oil, they're using soy oils. The real reason is because I did a lot of research on rapeseed, and in Europe, I think it was back in the 80s, there's a whole breakout of people dying because there was an olive oil company that was cutting the olive oil using rapeseed. Children died. Adults died as a result. And a lot of people don't know about that, but I found an article and I found the research. I found a lot of deets, a lot of information on that. We're talking thousands of people died. That was how bad it was. And so canola oil is a GMO, is a genetically modified form of the rapeseed. They're used for industrial degreasing. Rapeseed is like, and I know in Germany and other countries they use it for cooking and food, but to me it doesn't make me feel good about it because canola oil is supposed to be a lower uric acid count, you know, like to lower it. urea, not uric acid, or oleic. I'm a little tired. It's been a long day. So they try to make it sound like it was healthy. Well, canola stands for Canadian oil. And so here we were, again, fed one of the many nutritional lies, along with, what's the other one that they try to put? The soy. I remember my grandmother, the only reason, I think she got sick was because she started consuming soy. And my grandmother was a nurse, and she refused chemo treatment because she knew chemo was poison. She told the doctors, "I'm not doing it. It's poison." She lived longer than they claimed that she would, but basically when they opened her up, she had a tumor within her womb, the size of a grapefruit, and many others as well. And so they turned around and they said it wasn't worth going in and doing so much, and they gave her 6 months to live. I mean, she lived a little longer than that, from my understanding. She passed right before my birthday, and she would have been 70 years old. So my dad just turned 70 in December this past year, and I know that kind of underlying might have affected my dad. I don't know personally. We didn't have that discussion, but I sensed, because he went through a little bit of a withdrawal time during that. And my dad's doing fantastic, and he's embraced a lot of the changes that I've taken. He's old school. So my dad still has that, I don't have a problem with that. I can eat whatever I want. And meanwhile, if you have inflammation, if you have extra weight, I don't believe there's such a thing as an obesity. I believe that's inflammation. It just shows your body is out of balance. That's what I believe. But that doesn't mean it's right for everybody. So, you choose your poison, right? So, we're going to do the cream, and I'm going to use bananas. And I have some mushy bananas that are just right for this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. 2. I know there's another one in here that's perfect for this. I like to sing to myself while I'm preparing, along with dancing. Be a whole lot of, I might make more than one of these, but that'll be after the fact. I'll just do one at a time. I'm probably gonna have a whole lot of cream though. So, banana. You take the banana and the coconut, because I got coconut too. It's gonna be messy. All right, so this, definitely that one and that one. Okay. I really don't know how this is gonna turn out, but I'm excited. I'm always excited when I'm doing something in my kitchen, because again, it's like my laboratory experiment. Alchemy. The alchemical process of turning things into gold, right? And so I also, like I said, I have these apple bananas, which I'm going to use as well. So I will mix in some of the apple bananas because they give a little bit more sweetness. And I'll use more dates. This is so much fun. Oopsie. I got a whole lot of messy stuff going on over here. My hands are all sticky, so this is just interesting. And like I said, I like to eat as I go. Yum. I'm trying to find the softest ones because okay, that'll work. I know, right? The cashews. And it's mostly because I've had these conversations with some friends. So this is coconut yogurt from the other day, and I had stuck it in the freezer and I forgot my blender was in there. I was blown away myself that why would you, it's just me. Why would you eat a cashew? Why would you even go to all that trouble? What made you think that that was something you wanted to eat? If we were to think like in terms of roaming the land and looking for food, somebody clearly must have gone into anaphylactic shock to go to that extreme. And I've never had an actual cashew fruit, apple. They have this cashew fruit, and that's not it, actually. That's a different part of it. There's supposed to be this beautiful fruit that you get off the cashew tree, But the problem is, most people, unless you've been next to a tree, it apparently ripens so quickly, you can't transport it somewhere. So it's not something you would find in a store unless it's a local product or you have access to the tree itself, right? This is my understanding. Some of this. You know, I used to do a whole lot of banana bread and things like that, and never stopped to think that the riper the banana, the browning, like when I was a kid, I did not like brown bananas. My aunt would be like, don't worry, give it to me, I'll eat it. So, you know, if it had brown spots, I totally rejected it, right? Yeah, and you know, soaking it, I know there, you know, believe it or not, you don't even need to soak them. The only reason soaking is helpful is to soften them. They don't sprout. It's not the same as like other types of seeds, nuts and seeds where they sprout. Cashews don't actually sprout. They just soak and absorb the water. That I do know. That's been one thing I'm aware of. So soaking in the other types of nuts and seeds is beneficial, right? Because it helps to, so think about a nut and a seed. Most of the times it's a seed. Nature has natural defense mechanisms built in. And so the reason you want to soak nuts and seeds, and not all of them, because there's a list of particular nuts you don't need to soak. If it's something like a walnut, you need to soak it so you can clean off what they call the phytoenzymes, the enzyme inhibitors. Because a seed is meant to be planted. And so it is a natural protection from predators. And that when you soak it, not only does it put it into that movement of, okay, now I'm going to grow into a tree. I'm going to turn myself into a plant. It has to shed that protective layer, which is why you soak nuts and seeds, in order for it to emerge and grow. And so soaking it removes that and puts it into that stage of growing. And that's where all the nutrients are, really, is at the source, at the seed. All in a little seed. All in the middle of this little seed. My mother loves to remind me about the mustard seed. You know, no matter how small the seed, it can grow. It can grow. The mustard seed story. Okay, so right now, I think, how many did I put in there? 3 or 4? Something like that. Okay, just say 4 bananas. I wasn't kidding when I said I didn't really pay attention. And I'm going to start out with, let's do 5 dates, because 5 dates is a good amount of dates. I've had such a busy day today. Oh my gosh. I almost forgot. What did I do today? Well, I intermittent fast throughout the course of the day. That's one of my things. I love to fast because it helps my body, kind of like when I have aches and pains. So this morning, I woke up a little achy, and I was kind of confused why. I felt great when I went to bed. But that happens. And so in the winter, I don't fast as often as I do in the summer. Summers, I do a lot more mono meals, meaning I eat like whatever the seasonal fruit is. And that's an awesome thing too, because it's more hydrating. And my body doesn't need a lot. I said 5, right? I think I put, I think this is number 5. Okay, I lost count. All right, so that, again, sprinkle of salt, which I already put away. No, I didn't. Where did I put it? I put it off to the side somewhere. What did I do with the salt? Craziness, right? Oh, there it is. I knew I didn't put it too far. So. Okay, So we're going to do, again, a nice generous pinch. Flavor balancing, that's all. Flavor balancing. I'm trying to think what else. I'm gonna mix this first because I want to see. Yeah, I did say 5, but I'm not sure if that's how many I actually put in there. I might have put 6, but I'm pretty sure I put 5. All right, and then I'm kind of running out of my vanilla right now, so I really use this a lot. It's vanilla stevia. Really helpful for just infusing the flavor of vanilla instead of having to go through all the, and I do prefer the bean. I put 5 drops in there for now. And then because this is just vanilla, this is just meant to be the banana cream itself. I'm not really trying to overdo anything or add too many ingredients. Really simple, really simple. They're just the components, right? So let's add a little bit of water. We need enough water. I'm just going to mix it up. Turn this baby on. It's going to be noisy. I'm just going to warn you. And I might use some more bananas in this. I haven't decided. But we'll find out shortly. I do tend to lick all my spoons and stuff, though. Oh, that's a wrong cap. So I actually have the the chocolate chicory coconut yogurt still kind of in this. It's just going to infuse a little bit just because there was some on the edges. I had scraped it on the sides. Oh, that's good. But I think I want flavor-wise, it's really good, but I think I want more bananas. So, let's see what I got I've got all these apple bananas, so I think I might add some more of those because it's such a particular flavor. So I already put at least 2 of these in there. I'm going to put 3 more. And then we'll see how it turns out. There's a nice natural sweetness to this, so you don't really... I didn't really need the dates, but I put the dates in because, well, like I said, I like dates. So, we got... Brazil nuts are another good one. You don't need to soak those, but it's just to soften. And then like almonds will sprout. Macadamias don't even need to be soaked either, or either, whichever word you prefer. But ultimately, I will soak them just to soften them. Macadamias are my favorite. All around. Oh, and pistachios. Oh. Now, I don't know, I can't recall if they sprout themselves. These pistachios are just so good. I've got some of that in the refrigerator. Oh my gosh. I almost forgot about it. I have to hide things from myself sometimes just so I don't eat them all. I have like little guilty pleasures that when I'm lazy and I don't want to make my own chocolate torts or something like that, or I don't have the time to do it, I will go to the store and I'll get those Hail Mary mint chocolate chip tarts. Oh, they're really good. And you're only really not supposed... You probably should only eat like half of it at the max. But I've been known to eat a whole one. That was 3. Let's see if any of these others need to be used. I try to get the mushy ones because you have to actually wait till these are ripe properly. But they will not taste well. They will taste really icky. Those are good. And looking for the ripest. Anybody know any good jokes? I could use a joke tonight. I like a little comedy. Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts or YouTube when I'm doing things in the kitchen. All right, so it's I think we got 7 apple bananas in here now, mostly for the flavor. And then I've got coconut inside. I'm going to make a coconut cream sauce, whipped cream, let's say, which should be fun because I haven't done that in a while either. It's like I get to test myself. Do you remember what to do? And whatever's left over that doesn't fit in the pie, because there's not a lot of room in there, I'm going to end up making little torts, I can tell. So I'll have to dig out some of my other containers or molds and bowls. Wow, I look tired. It's been a long day and it shouldn't have been. So, let's see. I don't have anything written down over here. I just pulled up some old notes and then I'm thinking, man, I'm not even going to end up using any of that. So I've got that, and I'm going to see how I like this flavor mix now. I almost feel like it needs more vanilla. It needs something. What am I feeling? This is how I operate. So I taste things in my mouth and my mind, kind of. I'm going to put a little lucuma and see how that fares. So lucuma gives it kind of like a caramel flavor, which could be a good and a bad thing in this case. I really wanted to maintain the banana flavor, but we'll see how it turns out. And that's about a teaspoon. Let's see how that turns out. And some more vanilla. I'm going to add about 5 more drops of vanilla. Okay, so, and this will go in the freezer while I'm preparing the next step, right? Ooh, this is going to be really good. Very good. My humble, honest opinion, it is. I could eat this just as it is. Yeah, that's just right. Don't need it to be too sweet. Because we're already sweet, right? Oh my gosh, this might actually fill the whole thing. Oh, that's awesome. Maybe not quite, but there's a little left over. It's a good thing I have more than one blender pitcher. So again, I lick my stuff. And most of the time it's just me. But I'm sure I'll be forgiven if people find out that they're being served a delicious... I didn't lick out of it beforehand, I licked after. So, here we have... And yes, that cream is going to be layered on top of bananas, because I'm going to slice bananas. I'm going to stick this in the freezer. Probably won't stay on the entire time for this, because it'll take a little while for all this to settle. So, actually there's air bubbles. I probably should have could have smoothed it out, but I'm not even gonna worry about it. So okay, so that's in the freezer. And while that's freezing, at least hardening up, what I'm gonna do is make up the coconut cream. That's the best part, right? I guess I could have actually put a little coconut. That's what I should have put in it. So in the future, I would have definitely put either coconut oil in there or some of the coconut meat, because when you put just bananas, the bananas are going to get that kind of crispiness, because it's not churning like an ice cream. It needs something to gel it a little bit more. But I'm going to forgive myself on that note. So I'll use the other pitcher for the coconut cream that I'm about to make. And that the chocolate coconut chicory is really good. A lot of cheese, a lot of alliteration going on there. Say that fast. Chocolate chicory coconut yogurt. Coconut chocolate chicory yogurt. Chicory doc. The mouse ran up the clock. So I do have the notes for the whipped cream. I don't have full fat coconut milk or anything like that. I'm just going to use the meat that I have in the refrigerator. And then I'm going to use some maple syrup with it. And I'm going to whip it on up. And pitcher. The best pitcher. And you don't really need a whole lot, so this is going to be so short and sweet. And then I'm going to put the bananas chopped up on the top of that. That'll probably set for just a short time, and then I'll put the bananas. Now for the coconut, here's the coconut. I don't know if I'm going to use all of this, but we'll see. So this is probably from at least 2 coconuts. 2. Has anybody ever done aquafaba? So aquafaba is the water after, like, you can use it from chickpeas, you can use it from white beans. I haven't done a whole lot of playing with it. I have a girlfriend that's really big into using it, and she's made some amazing stuff with it. I haven't played too much, but there's some great stuff you can do with it, from my understanding. Fun. And of course there's the chocolate part that I'll have to make as well. So typically what I'll do there is I'll do equal parts of coconut oil with the raw cacao and some maple syrup and maybe the vanilla stevia in there, and you just stir it up because it'll harden in the refrigerator because of the coconut oil. So that's very short and sweet. So I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of maple syrup in there. Again, I'm going to eyeball it. Really short and sweet, and it's simple. I think that's good, but we'll find out in a second. We'll just check. And the lid. I think I might need a little bit of oil. So it's a little different when you're not using straight cream. Actually, I might use some of that liquid that's in the bag. You do need a little bit of liquid for a cream. I'm going to do 1 more tablespoon in here.
while. Okay, I'm making a mess. I'm good like that. So going on, we have, let's try this again. The beauty is if you don't stick around, you can always come back and watch later, right? Ooh, the sweetness. Not crazy about the noise myself. Let's do some coconut oil. I'm going to put, let's try 1 tablespoon to see if this is enough. Make that 2. Or 1.5 actually. Sorry, I don't like to have my back to, but like I said, my kitchen's a little small. So I'm working with what I got. And so here's what we got. This is my own fault because I should put a little bit more liquid and a little bit more coconut. It likes to have everything down over the blade. I'm not trying to ruin your ears on this. So, I'm going to have to put all that in there. It's going to be the only way to do this. That's okay. Because this is already broken the bag. Okay. So this is going to go in the trash. Which is definitely going up in trash tonight. Sometimes it takes a little while in the kitchen, but I hope you're enjoying this anyway. I am. It's nothing better than sharing all your juicy creations. A little bit more. That's about another tablespoon and a half.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut up the bananas. That I'm gonna use for something else because it's a little bit too hard to break down and I don't wanna waste too much more time here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up a bunch of bananas to layer on the banana cream that I've already got in the freezer. And I have regular bananas and the apple banana, so I'm going to do both. Because again, I have these bananas in here that really need to be utilized. And nobody wants to waste food, right? So we try to use up what we have when we have it. So, okay. So I'm going to use a bowl. Actually, I'll use a plate because I'm just going to hand cut these. I just need them in nice little. Has anybody ever made banana cream pie out there? Please share. And what worked for you? So just simple, you know, just like you would for your pancakes or for a smoothie bowl, or so that's another thing. I'm going to make banana pancakes too. I have a dehydrator and that is so yummy. I've used almond flour and bananas and just dehydrated. Little flavoring too, of course. I might actually add that to the next batch. And then when I'm done doing this, I'll pull it out and I'll put them on top. And then I'll put some of the cream on top maybe. Actually, I might put some nuts, now that I think about it. I like to change things up when I make this. I actually need to make the chocolate sauce too. Because I've made layered banana cream pie, where I put the chocolate sauce in between. Now that's really good. I'm gonna put some of those apple bananas in there too. It's gonna be a mound of banana cream pie. My stomach's already talking to me, like, this is gonna be good. I've gotta stop with the late night eating though. Every once in a while that kind of throws me off. Anybody else out there a late night eater? All right. Now, I've got 2 apple bananas sitting in front of me that say, we're going to go in there. So 3 bananas, apple bananas. Clean off all that. I take a lot of pleasure in making all these different meals because to me, they're so much fun and I love to share my food with the people I love. And most of my friends really appreciate. I can't say there's anybody who doesn't that I've ever. I think it's because I'm also selective in who I share my food with, because I like my food, and the last thing I want to do is waste it on someone who doesn't appreciate it, right? So if a person appreciates my food and I appreciate them, at least it's an equal exchange, right? So you're really like reciprocating that expression of love. Because we all have different expressions of love, right? What is it? There's 5 love languages. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I got apple bananas in my tummy. Definitely gonna grab a couple more of those too.
3 more.
So that's 5 apple bananas. Did I mention this is going to be a very robust mound of apple cream pie? Or banana cream pie. I'm still caught up on the banana apple. So what else? So the way I even came across these, I was in this Asian market. It's actually in Tampa. It's called Sanwa. It's actually huge, and they had a box of apple bananas, and I wondered what they tasted like. Unfortunately, they had something that wasn't in the big box, so I was able to try them. But the first time I had them, my dad and I didn't know that you have to wait till they're really ripe. And you actually should wait until they pop at the seams, let's say. Like the banana usually has like a slice that bursts open. But we didn't know that at the time. And so I was so excited about this apple banana, and I opened one up, and I'm like, ooh. I took one bite, and I was like, oh no, it was not ripe. And that particular flavor, once you've had that, you realize, oh, I don't want to eat that again. So I looked it up, and it explained. Then when we finally allowed them to ripen properly, we were pleasantly surprised. And it's worth the wait, those kinds of things where we get a little overtly anxious and we want something right here. We've been raised in a culture that has trained us to think we need to have things right now. Like, instead of waiting, we have no patience. We want everything. We want instant gratification in all that we do, right? Whoops. Not always so easy to come by, it seems. So, that, and now I'm going to pull that out of the refrigerator. I'm going to put this back in the other blender. Let's do this real quick so I can clean this up. Give myself less work later. So bananas are supposed to be good to have before you go to bed, because they're supposed to have something in them that relax you. And it might be potassium, there might be some magnesium. And most of us are deficient in our magnesium, right? Okay, so it's not, obviously it's going to move a little bit. It is not frozen. I didn't expect that, but the banana cream pie now gets to get topped with a bunch of bananas. And so I'm going to try to mix all of them in there and just start layering on the nanners. Can't have enough bananas, right? I mean, if you're hungry, bananas are a great way to satiate. Fill you up. I like my bananas mushy. Now that I know that that's when they're the ripest and sweetest. But I didn't always know that, obviously. I had to figure out things as I got older. Eliminate that conditioning that, I don't know why, but we tend to take somebody else's word for things, and then we think it's our own truth and belief system, and then we don't even realize it. It doesn't exist. So I'm almost done with this, and then I'm going to say goodnight. But I hope you're all enjoying this, because I forgot to put the chocolate layer on here, but I'm going to do that afterward. So, and you could put nuts on this. You could put maybe walnuts, maybe, because I already did the crumble with the almonds. You could put almonds mixed in here if you wanted. This is so messy, but it's fun, right? Yes, future note to self, I forgot the coconut oil with the banana cream. Or banana cream filling, I should say. I don't think you could get any more fuller than this. Whatsoever does not fit in here will go in the blender, and I will use that for another pie. Nothing ever gets wasted in my house. Even my compost pile will tell you that. Because I like to give back to the earth as much as possible and try to recreate. Oh, this is what we're going to definitely call a banana mound. And it's kind of fun. It's really getting high up there. The next best part is going to be the chocolate, though. I will put a big old chocolate layer on here. That's what makes it the best. Simplicity, too. You know, believe it or not, even just like this, it's going to be delicious, especially with that crumble underneath. All right, this is definitely more on one side than it is on the other. Oops. No apologies. It is going to be delicious. And out come my different voices. Because bon appetit. You must enjoy your food. And play with it. Appreciate it. Because it's coming off the side. Yup. All right, one more in the middle. So, I'm going to leave you with this. I've got to make up the whipped cream. That's going to be noisy. Put the whipped cream and chocolate on the top. They're the best parts, too. It's all inclusive. It's all delicious. So I hope you appreciate this recipe. I hope this is helpful and you enjoy it and you try it at home. Because you never know. You might surprise yourself, and you might make something you really enjoy. It's going to be in the freezer anyway. So I'll show it to you before I stick it in the freezer. Look at that. Banana cream pie. Have an amazing evening. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you.